Tragic news coming in from Nepal. The Indian embassy in Nepal has said that 2 Indian pilgrims undertaking the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra are dead. More than 1,500 Indians on the pilgrimage have been stranded in Nepal due to heavy rain and bad weather. The Indian embassy in Kathmandu is monitoring the situation very closely. Embassy officials in Nepalganj and Simikot are in touch with the pilgrims. The embassy is exploring alternative routes to evacuate the pilgrims. The cold and wet weather conditions, however, are proving to be a deterrent in immediate evacuation. The Indian government has requested the government of Nepal for army helicopters to evacuate these stranded Indians. Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj tweeted, and I quote, "In Simikot, a health checkup has been done on all the elderly pilgrims. They are being provided required medical help. In Hilsa, we have requested police authorities for necessary assistance." Unquote. In an exclusive conversation with WION, a Nepal official assured all help to the stranded pilgrims. Bharat Kumar Regmi, Chargé d'Affaires of Nepal Embassy in New Delhi, told WION that 11 helicopters were pressed into service to rescue the pilgrims.
About 1,000 Indian pilgrims are right now stranded in Nepal. They were to go to Kailash Mansarovar. The Indian Foreign Minister has also reacted on Twitter. With me is Nepal's Chargé d'Affaires here in New Delhi to talk about the situation. So what is currently happening there in Nepal, especially on the Indian visitors who were passing through Nepal?
Siddhantji, you may be aware that this is the peak season of monsoon, in which there is heavy rainfalls in that area, and this time also it is happening like that. And many Indian pilgrims who had visited Mansarovar on their way back to back home, because of this weather, they have been stranded in Simikot and in Hilsa area, which is more towards Tibet. So this time the government we just have had conversation with local authorities and also with the spokespersons of the Ministry of Home Affairs. Government is doing its best. It has directed its local authorities to ensure safety, to ensure medical facilities, and to ensure until they are evacuated to a safe place.
So you just said that you talked to the Home Minister and you will be providing medical facilities also and places they can stay. But what are the other things Nepal government is officially doing so that these stranded pilgrims do not face any kind of problem right now because of the inclement weather?
Okay, in fact, the pilgrims have been stranded in two places in Nepal. One is in Simikot, which is at the height of 2,900 meters, and another is Hilsa, near border, which is at the height of 3,600 meters. Because of the weather, now it is not possible for evacuate them from Simikot to Nepalganj. But what we are doing, we are operating 11 helicopters, small sized helicopters, and the pilgrims, those who have been stranded in Hilsa, they are being evacuated to Simikot. Simikot is a district headquarters, and there are better facilities. So I think within a couple of within 1 or 2 days, all passengers will be evacuated to Simikot.
So evacuated with the help of Nepal government?
Yes, yes.
So finally, my last question on, for the sake of our viewers, can you tell us the route through which these pilgrims go from Nepal and finally to Kailash Mansarovar? Can you just explain?
It is, I mean, in Nepal, it starts from Nepalganj, which is very near from Nepal-India border. And they take helicopters. Normally, they are private helicopters, and they go to Simikot, that is district headquarters of Humla. And from Simikot to they go to Hilsa, which is near from border. Then there is one pass, which is at the height of 4,500 meters, slightly more than that. They have to cross that pass also, and then they go to Mansarovar through Tibetan territory.
Now to another story we're tracking here on Your Story. The marriage of an 11-year-old girl to a 41-year-old man has sparked a massive uproar in Malaysia. The wedding has reignited a debate around underage marriage in a country where there have reportedly been thousands of recent such cases. The girl's Thai parents, who work on a rubber plantation, said that they consented for her to become the third wife of a wealthy Malaysian trader, so long as she could remain at their home until she was 16. The Malaysian government confirmed the incident but said that there were no records in the courts or the regional religious office that permitted this marriage. And joining me live from Petaling Jaya in Malaysia is Ivy Josia. She's a women's rights activist and a former director of Women's Aid Organization. Ivy Josia, thank you so much for joining us on your story on WION. Now, what's the minimum age for Muslims and non-Muslims to get married in Malaysia? I mean, there are lots of calls for raising the minimum age to 18. So tell our viewers what the situation is like in Malaysia today.
Yeah, for non-Muslims, you should only be able to get married when you're 18. But there is a loophole between the ages of 16 to 17. You can get permission. If you're a non-Muslim, you need to go to the chief minister and you can get permission. Now, unfortunately, for Muslims, you could be below 16 and you can get married as long as you get permission from the Sharia court. So as long as you reach puberty, that means you could be 9 years old or 10 years old, you can go to the Sharia court and get permission. So there is this loophole for Muslims, for Muslim girls, and for non-Muslims, it's between 16 and 17. And as you well know, anyone below the age of 18 is a child.
And how does Malaysia compare to the other Muslim majority countries?
Well, I'm not completely aware about the statistics in other countries, but I do know that in many Muslim majority countries, in some Muslim majority countries like Morocco and Tunisia, it is banned, right? So it differs from country to country. And that is why Malaysian women's rights activists are saying that if in another Muslim country you're not allowed, why aren't we doing the same thing here? We all need to just come together and agree that children should not get married and not get upset or concerned that this is against Islam, because we have done our homework and we do know that Islam doesn't permit injustice.
And we've heard from several quarters in the last many hours on this issue. The Malaysian Deputy Prime Minister has called it unlawful. The UNICEF calls it shocking and unacceptable. Now, if I were to ask you, how have the ordinary Malaysian people reacted to this issue back home?
That is a good question. I mean, if you go through social media, of course, there's been a complete outrage. And, mind you, I've been doing this work for so long. So every 1 or 2 years, we do get this kind of reports, and everybody, reacts in great shock. But right now, there are a whole lot of adjectives here, but where is the action? So women's rights activists have been calling for a change in the law to just basically have the political will to say we're going to ban marriages, child marriages. So generally, there seems to be quite a number of people who are against it. But we also know that there's a kind of quietness among Muslims because they feel that perhaps this is against the religion, that we should allow for a man to marry a child, for a Muslim man to marry a child, and for a man not only just to marry a child, but able to take the second or third wife. So there are many, many layers here, because you must remember this child became his third wife. He did it without permission from his first and second wife. He went to Thailand and got married there without the permission of the Sharia court. So even if we were to follow all the different laws, the basic understanding has to be that this has to be stopped. Even if you follow the law, you go to the Sharia court must be able to say, sorry, we can't give you permission. We need to have this huge political change. We need to have this mindset change. And I believe that with new Malaysia, as you well know, that we have a change of government, that this could be possible, because there seems to be more of a political will now to say we must do something about it. We cannot be getting outraged every 2 years.
In conclusion, Ivy Josia, now one report says 16,000 girls under the age of 15 have married in recent years. The government has proposed a law on sex crimes against children, but has not criminalized child marriage yet. So what's the way forward in terms of legislation?
In terms of legislation, Obviously, they need to review why is it that we have a law against sex crimes against children, and at the same time we are permitting children to get married. There's got to be an honest review. People have to come to the table, and more than anything else, we need to educate the public. We need to educate parents. We need to tackle poverty. We need to bring education to the girls. This is not a single reform. It cannot be just only on the law. The law can be a start, but at the same time there has to be an education. There has to be a huge public awareness, especially getting parents on board, and eradicating poverty. It's not about Islam. It's not about any religion. It's also about eradicating poverty.
Indeed. On that note, Ivy Josiah in Petaling Jaya, Malaysia, thank you so much for joining me on Your Story. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. The 3rd of July is being observed as International Plastic Bag Free Day. The initiative was launched by Europe-based NGOs aiming at a massive sensitization campaign on the need to reduce plastic use. This is particularly with regards to single-use plastic, which is one of the biggest man-made threats to our oceans and natural habitat. India is among the countries to have vowed to ban single-use plastic by the year 2022. Other countries are also on a similar journey. Take a look.
The horror tales of single-use plastic are part of our daily digest nowadays. Plastic ban campaigns are everywhere on our screens. And to add to it, this campaign, the International Plastic Bag Free Day. Australia is one of the latest countries to order a plastic bag ban, but media reports were quick to talk about ban rage. This after a patron reportedly tried to strangle a supermarket worker for not giving him a plastic bag. It's just a matter of habits, which may take some time to kick in.
Yes, I had bought the bags earlier.
So I've been using them for a while and I'm quite happy. It's easy.
To take out one plastic bag and put in another one and charge you for it.
I think it's a pain in the bum.
I left my bags in the car.
Kenya is among the African countries which is struggling with plastic waste. In June, the country enforced a plastic bag ban in a bid to slow pollution. The ban includes the use, manufacture and importation of plastic carrier bags. Kenya's new law is particularly tough, with fines of up to $38,000 and a 4-year prison sentence.
The reason we want to phase this out is, again, to provide a healthy environment. I want to repeat and to reiterate that plastic polythene bags are pollutants, they are toxics, and they affect our health negatively. That is the whole purpose.
Other countries around the world are joining the plastic ban wave.
I did not also thank the chair of the COW, John Matusik.
Costa Rica, for example, wants to become the first country to ban all single-use plastics by 2021. The EU, for its part, is aiming at 90% single-use plastic, which includes carrier bags, to be recyclable by 2025. In June, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also vowed to ban single-use plastics by 2022. The initiative is underway with at least 17 states having some sort of curtailment on single-use plastic, particularly plastic bags. India's advantage is that the traditional way of life is still very present. This means that Indians still naturally use a lot of reusable items, such as steel, clay and cloth, for their containers and carriers. The idea is to keep these good old habits, or, as per the International Plastic Bag Free Day, reduce, reuse and recycle single-use plastic. Bureau Report, WION.
Now, believe it or not, the Somali terror group Al-Shabaab has announced its decision to ban plastic bags because of the threats they pose to the environment. Yes, Al-Shabaab is known for its deadly attacks on thousands of people across East Africa. Al-Shabaab's radio station Radio Andalus broadcast news of the ban on Sunday, saying that discarded plastic bags pose a serious threat to the well-being of humans and animals alike. Mohammed Abu Abdullah, the group's governor for southern Somalia's Shabelle regions, said that details of how the ban would be implemented will be announced later. Counter-terror experts say that the move is designed to show the world that the group could govern. Plastic bags join a long list of outlawed items in Al-Shabaab controlled areas, including Western music, cinemas, satellite dishes, smartphones, fiber optic services, and humanitarian agencies. All right, moving on. Social network giant Facebook faces scrutiny yet again over the Cambridge Analytica controversy that compromised personal data of 87 million people around the world. According to a media report, the federal investigation into Facebook's data practices has now been joined by multiple agencies. The report says, and I quote, "Representatives for the FBI, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Federal Trade Commission have joined the Department of Justice in its inquiries about the two companies," unquote. The focus of the multi-agency inquiry will primarily be on what Facebook knew years ago, what it failed to tell users and investors, and whether there were any discrepancies in more recent accounts, such as the one when executives from Facebook appeared before the American legislature. Now, Facebook has confirmed that the U.S. federal agencies have sent it questions. The company also said that it was sharing information and cooperating with the agencies. The Department of Justice and other federal agencies declined to comment. The nature of investigation is going to be wider and more stringent this time.
Mark?